Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm not buying books this year. So I'm closing in on 1 month of not buying books. And this has been a very interesting process, even though I've only been at it for, today's the 27th. So I will probably have to provide some updates or something in the description box at the actual end of the month. But so far, I've learned some interesting things. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the stats of the books I finished and sort of what categories they fall into. And then I'll finish with some like bookish temptations that I've had. And in the middle, we're going to talk a little bit more about money and what things cost. Because I'm discovering some interesting things about my book buying habits and the sorts of things that the thought processes that go into book purchases and not purchases, things like Kindle Unlimited and like the Audible Romance package. So to start with, I'm going to tell you how many books I finished. And I finished 18 books this month, pretty much so far. So I definitely finished 16, or 15. And then I've got 3 more that I'm almost certainly going to finish by the end of the month, because one of them is, I'm at like 85%, and one of them is an audiobook that I have like 2 hours left in. And then one is a paperback that I'm absolutely committed to finishing by the end of the month. So there were 8 Kindle Unlimited books, because Kindle Unlimited is completely gone kaput, forget it, see ya, as of yesterday, the 26th. So I no longer have access to Kindle Unlimited, at least for this year. I read 2 paperbacks, 1 purchased ebook, 2 audiobooks, and then I had 2 DNFs, did not finish. 1 KU and 1 audiobook. And then, like I said, I'll probably finish 3 more. 1 paperback, 1 audiobook, and 1 purchased ebook. So that's a total of 18 books. That's a total of 5 books off of my TBR. So what I can consider my TBR are books that I own, that are not borrowed from the library, from Kindle Unlimited, from the Audible Romance package, books that I actually purchased and own. And I'm trying to read 200 books off of my TBR this year. So that means I need to read about 16 books per month off of my TBR. And since I only got to 5 this month because of that Kindle Unlimited thing, I have a long ways to go. So hopefully I'll be able to catch up a little bit. So that kind of brings me to why I canceled Kindle Unlimited. I mean, I had said in the beginning that I was going to go ahead and cancel Kindle Unlimited because I wanted to focus on my TBR. But one of the things that I also noticed about Kindle Unlimited, in addition to it sort of distracting me from my TBR, both in print and in ebook, is that I have a tendency to describe myself as a mood reader. And having Kindle Unlimited allowed me to indulge in my moods freely, with very little cost to myself, or so I thought. In fact, I thought of Kindle Unlimited as being basically free. Reading a Kindle Unlimited book is free to me in that moment, so it felt free, like the library. And Kindle Unlimited isn't actually free. This might seem like a ridiculous assertion. Obviously, Kindle Unlimited isn't free. It's $9.99 a month, or if you have some kind of special deal, maybe it's a little less for you. But for me, Kindle Unlimited was $9.99 a month. That meant that I was spending $119.88 a year on mood reading. One of the things that I've discovered in trying to choose books off of my TBR, and in terms of like creating a monthly TBR pile, which is something that I never did before starting this project. I just kind of went from book to book, skipping blithely. And I would have described myself as a mood reader. I'm not sure that's true. I think having access to all of that choice, every book in the world, available easily, either purchased or through Kindle Unlimited on my computer at any hour of the day or night, led me to think that I should just indulge my moods. And one of the things that I discovered this month, reading a specific set of books, and if you missed my January TBR video, I'll put it up there. I've also done the first half of that reading list with brief reviews, and I'll do the second half in another couple of days. So those will all be up with brief reviews at some point. But I discovered that as I was reading these books, I could still skip from book to book. I could still choose the ones that sounded most interesting to me in that moment, but because I had made a commitment to, one, reading only the books on my TBR, and two, reading those books in that specific month, I just did it. And I don't think I enjoyed any of the books more for being what I hoped for in that moment, or less for not being exactly maybe what I wanted to read in that moment. I had two instances, and I'll go ahead and give these two specific titles anyway, of Lady in Waiting by J.A. Hawkins, and Beastly Desires by Nikki Winter. So the Hawkins book was a female-female, supposedly Renaissance fair set romance that turned out to not actually be Renaissance fair set. Not really. It starts at the beginning of the book, they're at a fair. For the most part, it's though a contemporary romance, which is fine. But I think I probably always would have felt a little bit, I know it's not resentful, I still enjoyed the book, but just it wasn't everything that I hoped for. So I was feeling like I wanted a Renaissance fair book. That wasn't what that book was. I think I always would have been a little disappointed by it. The other book was Beastly Desires by Nikki Winter, and I haven't talked about this one yet, I don't think. Oh wait, did I? I don't remember. Anyway, Nikki Winter writes, or at least this series is a shapeshifter series, and I was definitely not in the mood for shapeshifters. I didn't want to read paranormal romance. I was kind of having a historical mood, and I hadn't really put a whole lot of historicals on my list, except for the Julie Garwood, The Secret, which I haven't gotten to yet. And yet, I really enjoyed it. I loved that book. I thought everything about it was great, and I think I would have avoided reading it otherwise if I hadn't been about to cancel Kindle Unlimited because it didn't suit my mood. Well, maybe I'm not as much of a mood reader as I thought, so that's been interesting. The other thing is in terms of how I think about Kindle Unlimited, and then also by extension Audible and the Audible Romance package. Because they're all prepaid, essentially, I have prepaid access to either a certain number of credits or a certain list of books. They feel free to me. They feel like the library. They feel like I can get whatever book, whenever I want, however I want, which is an interesting psychological phenomenon that I really can't explain. And I am becoming suspicious of that. The reason I'm becoming suspicious is that two of the 3 audiobooks that I finished thus far this month, one of them I DNF'd, one of them I didn't enjoy, and one of them I liked a lot. Those were all in the Audible Romance package. So I kind of wonder if, for me, the Audible Romance package isn't something like Kindle Unlimited, in that it, rather than, for example, I have A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole checked out from the library. It's been on my TBR. I have it in ebook too, but the library happened to have it, so I thought I'd download it in audio. And I haven't listened to it because I had already checked out these Audible Romance package books, and I felt like I should finish those first so that I could cross them off my list. I don't understand where that logic comes from. I should listen to the things that I'm super excited for, and I love Alyssa Cole. In fact, the one audiobook that I did enjoy out of the Audible Romance package was an Alyssa Cole book. So why wouldn't I just read all the Alyssa Cole? It seems so obvious. And then the other thing is the cost. Those 3 packages that I was paying for cost me $382.68. Now, if you'll remember back in my very first introductory video to this project, and I'll put that up there, link that up there, and also probably in the description box because that's pretty important to the understanding of this video, that I had spent $369.48 in ebooks in 2018. And that's still true. There was also some paperbacks that I purchased in 2018 that I have no way of accounting for since I mostly paid cash in thrift stores and it would be really hard to figure that out. But when you add $382.68 to $369.48, you get $752.16. That more than doubles my 2018 book spending. And even more than $300 plus, $700 plus really starts to sound like a lot of money. I also this month got a library card from a different local system. I live in Northern Virginia, and there are reciprocal borrowing agreements throughout most of the counties in the nearby Northern Virginia area. So I found a library system that also has Hoopla. And Hoopla has a lot of audiobooks, and also a lot of ebooks, frankly, but a lot of audiobooks. And I have been wondering, given the number of audiobooks that I listen to in a month, which if we go by this month, that number is approximately 4. I'm not a huge audiobook listener. I listen to them in the car and then while I'm doing specific tasks at work. But I'm not the kind of person who can concentrate on an audiobook while doing anything else. So if I'm cleaning the house or making sort of the channel graphics, like the thumbnail that you see or the little title sequences, I can't concentrate on an on an audiobook while I'm doing that. So it's just how I am, and I just can't think. So generally speaking, I think 4 audiobooks is a reasonable number, and I think I can mostly get 4 audiobooks a month, probably from the library. Right now, all 3 of the main novels in the Alyssa Cole series, the Reluctant Royals series, are they're all in audiobook from the library. That's almost a month's worth of listening for me. So I'm now feeling like, even though I didn't say I was going to commit to this, canceling Audible and the Audible Romance package for this year. I'm not sure I'm going to make it a rule. I think I kind of want the flexibility to have it back if for some reason it doesn't then appeal to me at some later date. Maybe at some point I run out of books at the library. I don't want to make a rule about it because I do use audiobooks for a very specific purpose. But I'm staring down that almost $400 number and thinking, is there another way to get audiobooks? And there is. There's the library. The next number that I want to share is what I've saved toward the cost of our flooring thus far. And I am putting away a weekly sum, and then also we did a declutter of our books and took them to a local used bookstore. Now these were honestly mostly my husband's books, but we are still putting that in the same bucket as our flooring. So, so far this year I have saved $233.10 toward our flooring purchase. Yay! So hopefully if this trend continues, we will definitely have enough to replace our flooring in December, but I will continue to update you on this score monthly, since I hope you guys are all rooting for me in this endeavor. The last thing I wanted to talk about was my temptations. Now, I'm not going to talk about this in terms of specific titles. I'm going to talk about this in terms of more general desires. Now, I spend a lot of time online on social media, particularly on Twitter, and one of the facts of bookish social media, and keep being here on BookTube too, is that you get a lot of book recommendations. Not everything appeals, but a lot does. And I wrote down and saved 25 different titles this month that crossed my radar that I was interested in. Now, I knew I wasn't going to buy any of them, so I just wrote them all down with the idea of saving kind of a monthly list, and then reviewing them maybe at the end of the year to see which ones I still really wanted to buy. And already, looking at my list from January, there are really only 3 titles that I would say I would have looked at again if I had stuck them in a January 2019 folder on my Kindle and said, yes, I want to read those. But none of them, not a single one, was one that I looked at and said, God, I wish I had that so that I could read it now. And that seems to me to be pretty telling. There are certainly books. Oh, no, I take that back. There's one. There's one book out of 25 that but it came out relatively recently, so we'll see how I feel. One book that came out that I really, really wanted and that I wanted to read now and that I couldn't buy. Oh, what the heck, I'll go ahead and tell you what it is. It's Pan by Gina Maxwell. It's a Neverland sort of alternate universe that I think is contemporary. This is all my impressions. I haven't delved that deeply into it because I would just want it even more. But I think it's a contemporary romance series with the sort of overarching framework of Neverland. And Pan is, of course, about Peter Pan and I think Wendy. And then the next book that comes out, I think next month, is Hook. And I'm obsessed with Captain Hook. We'll talk about that at some later point, I'm sure. But I love Gina Maxwell. She's one of my favorite contemporary or erotic romance authors. She's an absolutely guaranteed slump buster for me. Anytime I've read a series of books that have just been meh or not that great, I know I can pick up a Gina Maxwell book and be instantly transported to the reading happy place. And I didn't know this series was coming out. So I can't buy that, and I'd really like to. But I do think that it's interesting that there are 24 other books on that list that, I mean, I still have a vague interest in, but they are not the all-consuming interest that I thought they were when I wrote them down. For example, I asked on Twitter about sort of good boy, bad girl romances. And I got probably 5 recommendations that sounded really, really interesting to me. Now, one of those was A Gentleman in the Streets by Alicia Rai. I already owned that. And I think if I hadn't picked it up this time after telling people that I hadn't read it, I think my Twitter friends would have shanked me. Because it is so good. It's beloved by so many. I love Alicia Rai as a writer, and I'm really now glad that that's kind of the one purchased ebook that I finished this month because it was delicious. And I'll talk about that when I do my reviews for the second half of January. So that book fulfilled that desire for a good boy, bad girl romance. I didn't need those other 4 titles, not right away. And while I still think that those books might be things that I'm interested in, they're not consuming me the way that they would have had I not read that other book that I already had. So I think what this has already taught me is that my impulse purchases, my impulse reads out of KU, my impulse listens out of Audible Romance, my impulse buys out of sort of specific bookish cravings, number one, are ignorable in favor of what I actually have on my TBR, and also fleeting. More fleeting than I would have expected. So I am both simultaneously both more and less of a mood reader than I think I would have expected. I don't know if this will hold true the entire year. I may get to the point where I'm feeling very, very frustrated by this project. So far, it's just been kind of interesting. I think I haven't really felt deprived. I've had lots of great reads. I think if I had continued to consume KU books at that rate, I would probably have had similar results to what I had before, which is that, about, 10% of them were great and 10% of them were DNF and the rest of them were somewhere in the middle. And I think that my track record with books that I've chosen and purchased deliberately might actually even be a little better than that. Anyway, I think that's just about it for my first not buying books update. I hope this has been interesting and educational, and have a great week. Doubt not, slay some words, and Lex has your back. Bye.